Welcome back to Proxy, everybody, and today we are going to be talking about some insane cheese that I just discovered is circulating the Eldar community, specifically within people who play Seer Council competitively. So, we're going to talk about this cheese and what it is, how it works, the arguments for and against, and we're really going to get into the nitty and gritty of this topic. So, if you guys haven't heard, there is a pretty insane and quite frankly overpowered little rules interaction within the Seer Council that people are using in competitive play, apparently. Now, I haven't seen it firsthand used. I've talked to several other people who play Seer Council competitively, and they haven't seen it used. But I've been informed by someone who is, pretty up to date on things competitive. We've talked quite a few times in the comment section of my videos, and he says they're using it. He says it works. So, without further ado, let us go ahead and dive into and discuss it, because I actually think that it is a very interesting discussion that is going to enlighten us on some interesting rules interactions. So, first, of course, we're going to be looking at what the cheese is and the units and stratagems involved. We're going to be talking about the argument for and against the cheese and my own personal thoughts on the cheese and if you should use it in your own games. All right, so what is the cheese and what are the units involved? So the units involved are going to be Baharoth with 10 Swooping Hawks. Now, they are going to be combined with the Unshrouded Truth stratagem in Seer Council. So that's what you need for the cheese to work. You need a unit of 10 Hawks with Baharoth. I suppose you can do it with less Hawks, but, it's not really worth using the cheese with less than 10 Hawks for reasons I'll talk about in a second. And you need the Unshrouded Truth stratagem. So you need to be within 9 inches of a Psyker model to be able to activate it. Okay. And that's, of course, in the Seer Council detachment. So, here's the cheese. Baha and his 10 Hawks are going to use his Cloud Strike ability, which, in case you guys don't know, works pretty much the same way that old Skyleap did. At the end of your opponent's turn, you're going to pull them out of the table, and you are going to have them arrive via reinforcements in your next turn. Now, Baha allows them to deep strike within 6 inches of an enemy unit, and because they get to use a grenade pack after they arrive, they're going to throw their grenade packs at whatever they want, and then you use the Unshrouded Truth stratagem to bounce back out of danger. So that's basically what the cheese is. You come in via deep strike, you have not moved yet, right, technically, although we'll speak about why that's actually not true in a second. And you throw your grenade pack, and then you use the Unshrouded Truth stratagem to get them out of danger. So basically, the Unshrouded Truth stratagem, in case you guys don't know, and I'll show you guys what it is later, but what you do is you target a unit, and that unit then can reposition itself. You remove it from the battlefield, and it can, be set up again anywhere outside of 9 inches of enemy units. Okay. So here's the argument for the cheese. The argument for the cheese is that it's actually 100% rules as written. You can absolutely do it because in the core rules, there is a section that allows units that have arrived via reinforcements, aka Baha and his Hawks, that turn, to be repositioned, even if they have already been selected to move. Therefore, coming in from reserves does count as having made a normal move. So even if they have already been selected to move via, just regular rules for reinforcements, they can still be repositioned. That's the argument. There is an actual part, and I'm going to show you guys right here, the actual rule from the core rules on repositioned units. We're going to read this together. So, some rules enable units to be repositioned by removing them from the battlefield, then setting them back up on the battlefield. Units that use such rules are known as repositioned units, and the points below always apply to them in addition to any other rules that can affect that unit, such as where they can or cannot be set up. Note that units that are using rules to embark within or disembark from transports are not repositioned units. So, of course, Baja doesn't have to worry about that because we're not talking about transports here. So, the first part of this paragraph under the number 1 right here, if used in the movement phase, such rules can be used on units that arrived as reinforcements this phase and can be used on units that have already been selected to move this phase. So technically, it could be used on Baja's unit, right? If a reposition type of rule existed that allowed Baja and his unit to then reposition themselves that same phase, in the movement phase, then they would be able to use it, right? Because, as we've seen in the core rules, it says that can be used on units that have already been selected to move. Because that unit arrived via reinforcements, it was therefore automatically selected to move as part of its deep strike or, arrival from strat reserve, whatever it is. And we can then reposition it as such. However, there is an argument against this cheese, and this is what it is. So, here it is. I know some of you guys are already chomping at the bit to comment about this cheese, but here's the rule against it. So, the Unshrouded Truth stratagem actually has its own conditions for targeting that unit. And if those conditions are not met, the unit cannot be targeted with the stratagem to begin with. Okay? So, precisely that, it prevents the use of the stratagem on a unit that has already been selected to move, aka arrives from reinforcements. And remember that a unit that arrives via reinforcements counts as having been selected to make a normal move. So, yes, if there is a rule that allows a unit to reposition itself, but doesn't have any other criteria, then the core rules would apply to it, right? Basically saying that, yes, if you arrive via reserves, via reinforcements, and you have a rule that allows you to reposition yourself in the same phase, in the movement phase, then you're allowed to use it. However, this is not the case with Unshrouded Truth, because Unshrouded Truth specifically states that it cannot be used. The stratagem cannot even be used or targeted on a unit that has been selected to make a normal move. So let's go ahead and read the stratagem specifically. Unshrouded Truth. 1 Ozerani infantry unit from your army, excluding Wraith construct units, that has not been selected to move this phase and is within 9 of 1 or more friendly Ozerani Psyker models. So the Psyker models part is obvious because that's every single stratagem in Seer Council, but specifically has not been selected to move. So, therefore, this is in the targeting step, guys. And if you cannot target a unit with a stratagem, then the effect does not happen. Okay? That's obvious to a lot of us, but that is the case here. So the effect is you remove your unit from the battlefield and set it up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches horizontally away from all enemy models. So this is the repositioned units part. So if this stratagem was able to be used on a unit that has already been selected to move, then it could work, right? Because of the core rule. However, because you cannot even target the unit with the stratagem in the first place, it doesn't work. That's the argument against the cheese. All right. Now, of course, the other restriction is until the end of the phase, your unit is not eligible to be selected to move again, obviously. Right. So that's the argument against it. So here are my own thoughts on the cheese and my explanation as to whether or not you should use it in your own games. So here's what I believe. And I actually think this is the actual rules as written if you go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3, right? I believe the stipulations of Unshrouded Truth will prevent you from being able to target a unit that arrived via reinforcements with the stratagem itself. So when that unit arrives, it has already been selected to move, and therefore the target part of the stratagem is unable to activate. You cannot target the unit with the strat itself because it is already moved. So therefore, this would make the unit unable to benefit from the core rule allowing those units to then be repositioned and count as repositioned units. Remember, this is not a rule, in my opinion, it's not a rule on a data sheet. It's not a detachment rule that allows a unit to reposition after moving. It's none of that. It is a stratagem that specifically has its own requirements, and if those requirements are not met, you cannot target the unit. And basically, my kind of explanation of this, my backup of this, is that oftentimes in 40K, there is an order in which events occur, and sometimes step 1 of the order can actually prevent step 2 from taking place, right? Now, what do you guys think about it? Let me know in the comment section below. Let me just put it this way. Do I think you should use this in your games? I know my opinion is that you can't do it. My opinion is against the cheese. I don't think it's possible, right? When the Seer Council detachment came out, one of the first things I thought was actually that. And then I quickly dismissed it because I read the stratagem and I saw the target. I saw the targeting restrictions. And it said that you couldn't use it on a unit that has been selected to move. And I just didn't think about it since. And now people are playing Seer Council again. They're starting to see that again, that interaction, and they think they can use it that way. I personally don't think so. But use your best judgment. That's all I can say. What I will say is that it is cheesy. It is a kind of a rules exploit. And if, people say it's just rules as written, it's technically not just rules as written. There is a little bit of, kind of bending the rules. It's basically like, in my opinion, it's like trying to fit an oval into a circle slot, right? An oval peg cannot quite fit into a circle slot, but they look similar to each other. So people try to make that argument, right? So just use your best judgment. Write down what you think about the rules interaction down in the comment section below. I know some of you will say that it has been used in competitive play. I haven't personally heard a bit about it, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? That doesn't mean that it's not true. I just haven't seen it. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Just keep it simple, okay? Because we're all just trying to play the Eldari as best we can, and we're trying to find out what cool combos work and what cool combos don't work. So let's talk about it in the comment section below. But yeah, tell me your opinions on it. Personally, I don't think you can do it because of the reasons I stated and because of the against argument. But it's interesting to hear your guys' opinions. So anyway, yeah, that's going to be it for today's video. Thanks for watching. I know it was kind of a quick one. We have another video coming out soon. Hopefully a couple of interviews, actually, believe it or not, with people who have participated and won some GTs. We got a pretty good lineup going. So, as soon as we get those going on, we're going to go for it. Okay, thank you for watching, and thank you so much to all my patrons and supporters who have supported the channel over the last 2.5 years. Your help has greatly improved the channel and helped it grow significantly. If you do want to help me support the channel, join the Patreon. You can join for free and just be a part of the Discord. You'll get free access to our Discord, or you can support the channel with a small Patreon membership. It starts at $2 and it goes up to $20, and $20 at that level is the coaching level. If you want to talk to me about strategy, specific tactics and stuff like that, and maybe run through a game or two on Tabletop Simulator to see how well your army can perform, or preparing for a tournament or anything like that, that is for you. But of course, I would just appreciate the help at any level. And if you want to grab some Eldar inspired apparel, I also have a channel store page, which you can find a link for in the description. And lastly, an Amazon affiliate link that you can check out for Eldari discounted miniatures. All right, guys, that is going to be it for today's video. Thanks for watching and have a good one. Peace out, everybody. See you later.